Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where once again Marvel has put many members of the press in a difficult position with their decision to once again roll out one of the big Marvel movies over a 2-week period across the globe. It doesn't open, Guardians of the Galaxy doesn't open here in the United States until May 5th, yet it's already playing in Australia as we speak, and I believe if not this evening, tomorrow, it'll have the pre-night showings in the UK, and it will open outright in the UK on Friday. In fact, it will be playing in most of Europe by the end of this week, a whole week before it hits the United States. And for Civil War, it was even worse, where the reviews for that movie came out a month in advance. And I see you guys upset in the comments saying, it feels like we're missing the party. And this is something we discussed exactly with Civil War. But that turned out just fine. It did very well at the box office, and it became, of course, a billion-dollar movie. But I think that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 finds itself in a little bit of a different position, and I don't know if it can. I'll be interested to see if it can withstand the same release pattern, because the reviews are moderate. I think the word of mouth that's coming out is not, it doesn't say it's a must-see. And I also think there's nothing pressing about the movie, which has now also been revealed, that there's no tie-in to the MCU. Civil War was brilliantly structured from a business perspective, and then it had teases for Spider-Man Homecoming and Black Panther, and pointed the MCU in a very specific direction. So there was a lot of speculation going on. The speculation game, which I think very much drives the comic book movie business and why it gets so much media attention. But there's really not that much to speculate with when it comes to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And, that question mark is taken away. A number of you are like, it doesn't tie into Infinity War? What? And so that's going to dilute your excitement a little bit, no matter how good you think the movie itself, if you think it ends up being very good. And my review, of course, went up yesterday. But we'll see how Guardians of the Galaxy's box office does. It's predicted to open at around 150 to 160, which is very strong stateside. But I'll be curious to see if this early release might eat away into that. I'm reminded of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and this strategy so far has worked for Marvel. And until they have a problem like what happened with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, they're probably going to keep doing this. But The Amazing Spider-Man 2, as you might recall, came out overseas, particularly in Europe, about a week or so in advance, and the word of mouth on it was toxic. So just a week or so later, when it hit the States, it was already DOA. And I'll be curious. I don't think Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be DOA. I just want to clarify that. But I think that it might be diminished a little bit in excitement. As some of you pointed out, there were headlines about how it was testing 100% with, preview audiences. And now these reviews saying, meh. I really liked the second half, as I said in my review. I thought it was really spectacular, but the first half was equally bad. And then, of course, I did also tell you that there's no tie-in to Infinity War or the MCU. And so, to some of you, and as I've said before, I think that because of the Marvel-DC war and how people feel that DC doesn't get a fair shake and Marvel gets preferential treatment, I think you're seeing that bleed a little bit into the fan base, and I think because we like superheroes and in a search for justice, some people are being a little tougher on Marvel movies. And you saw Doctor Strange was a low performer. It was about, I think between like six, like in the mid 600s in its box office gross. Not, of course, what Civil War did, but Doctor Strange, of course, is a smaller character, and Guardians of the Galaxy is coming off of a very successful first film. So we'll see. It also is kicking off the summer, but there's so much right behind it that I'll be curious to see how it does in the long run as well. It'll be very interesting to watch Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 at the box office. There's a lot going on. So my big question to you today, though, is what do you think of this release strategy? And do you think, as annoying as it might be to you, do you think it will ever actually affect a Marvel movie and be changed? All right, so that's the first story of the day. Now let's head over to Warner Brothers. Let's talk about Warner Brothers. And a lot of you sent me this article that debuted late last night, and that's that Warner Brothers is building a theme park in Abu Dhabi, which looks pretty darn cool. Too bad it's across the globe in Abu Dhabi, although some BTT viewers are from that region, so you'll have to go for us and tell us how awesome it is. You guys have some pretty cool stuff out there in Abu Dhabi. But anyway, It's interesting because Warner Brothers has had a lot of success in the theme park business lately with the Wizarding World, basically all in the Harry Potter space. They've put their characters for a long time from DC into the Six Flags theme parks, but those are obviously a very different kind of theme park than the Disney Worlds and the Universal Studios of the world. So Warner Brothers has had tremendous success with the Harry Potter brand, not only with the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, fabulous theme park experiences. I've done them just in Orlando, but I've been to both Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley, and it's really I don't think you can get a better theme park experience. And then I know that many of you have done the studio tour in the UK, in London, and for instance, they had like a nice holiday tour that sold out almost immediately, and they're doing stuff with the holidays at Wizarding World this year at the theme parks. So it's curious to me that Warner Brothers is like, okay, let's try and build our own full theme park instead of, licensing to Universal. And it sounds pretty good. It's funny though, from this concept art, you can see that it has to be indoors because Abu Dhabi is so hot. So all their theme parks actually are indoors there. So this is going to be indoors. And the thing that's getting everybody talking is they're going to actually build a Gotham and a Metropolis. But I'm curious to what extent. Well, if it has the quality of building the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, that would be as big, in my opinion, as like a Star Wars land. I think that would be absolutely spectacular. Although I think there have been so many different Gothams at this point. What Gotham are you building? I mean, there's like generic Gotham, I guess you could build, but something that benefits Star Wars obviously is that they're so consistent and they don't keep having to reboot. But also, there's also going to be, this is the other thing I thought was great. Besides Gotham and Metropolis, they're going to build a Bedrock, like from the Flintstones. I think that's really cool. A Cartoon Junction, Dynamite Gulch, which I guess is Looney Tunes, but I don't know why that's not in Cartoon Junction. And then also a Warner Brothers Plaza, which will be basically like their main street, right? Their thoroughfare. And I thought it sounded pretty good. It sounds actually a lot like Universal Studios to me. And I think that they should Warner Brothers should either build a park like this in Orlando or California to outrightly compete with Disney and Universal. Maybe their contract with Wizarding World doesn't allow them to. But then in that case, why not just continue their partnership with Universal and continue to be full of win in the theme park division? I mean, I think that the success of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter not only helps the Universal Studios theme parks, but it's incredibly helpful to Warner Brothers brand. And that's, of course, one of their biggest franchises up there with DC Comics. So I don't understand why they wouldn't want to get that kind of not only success factor, but exposure for the DC brand as well. Now, the third story of the day, speaking about building a brand, is that Hell or High Water was a surprisingly strong contender during awards season last year. Tons of Best Picture nominations, including at the Oscars. And it was interesting because it was the little movie that could. It came out like in late summer, and it just got a lot of momentum. Now, it didn't really win too much, but still, the nominations enough were very impressive. And it's a fabulous movie. Part of me covering the story is just to tell you to watch Hell or High Water. I think it's a really good look at, a number of people in the middle of this country who are struggling with the banks and the financial situation that's been created. So, and I think it's a really unique perspective, especially coming out of the 2016 presidential election, that the media at large isn't really putting out there. So it was great. Now, so they're thinking of their next follow-up project, and it looks like it's going to land at Netflix. But the way that it's shaping up is very interesting to me. So they're selling this as, the Hell or High Water creative team is back together, and they're going to make a new movie, and it's going to feature the director David Mackenzie, stars Chris Pine and Ben Foster. But interestingly, the people who aren't included in this are the ones who got all the nominations for the movie. Screenwriter Taylor Sheridan and Jeff Bridges is for his best supporting nods for the movie. So it's weird to me that you'd be like, oh yeah, the Hell or High Water crew is back together, minus anyone who got nominated for the film. So I thought that was weird. But anyway, this sounds interesting, but also a little risky. So for Netflix, they're going to do something called Outlaw King, which is a passion project for Mackenzie because he's Scottish, and it's going to be about Scotland's freedom from England. And also two of the main producers on this project are also from Scotland, and they're really rushing to shoot it because before the days start getting shorter in Scotland, where apparently they can get pretty darn short. So they want to shoot in August when they have a lot of daylight. So anyway, this is going to be a movie about Robert the Bruce, and they're going to show how he really was the savior for Scotland, even though the Braveheart movie sidelined him. And I think that's an interesting choice. Now, I don't know very much about Scottish history, so for those of you, I know some BTT viewers are from that region. Very international episode of Morning Movie News today. But I'd be curious if Robert the Bruce, how he's viewed compared to William Wallace. But I will say that any movie that's like, Braveheart got it wrong, Braveheart celebrated maybe the wrong guy, that's going to be a tough sell to mainstream audiences who still recall Braveheart as like one of the best movies ever made. I mean, it's a very famous film, slew of Oscar nominations and wins, and you know, it was Mel Gibson's really huge breakthrough as a director. Now, of course, Mel Gibson finds himself in a very different place today, but anything positive people think about Mel Gibson still comes from Braveheart and like Passion of the Christ, right? So it'd be weird to try and discredit that movie in a way. I'd be like, oh, be careful, Netflix, be careful. So that's the third story of the day. Now, for the viewer question, we're going to circle back to our Marvel discussion a little bit because Mikey Flood had a great question that I think pertains to release strategies and, business structuring of films. So Mikey says, "Hi, Grace, I have a question. Each third entry in an MCU solo characters trilogy so far has made over $1 billion. Very good observation. Iron Man 3, Captain America Civil War, although Captain America Civil War cheated a little bit because that's really an Avengers movie. But anyway, do you think that but also, to be fair, Iron Man 3 came after Avengers, so that was riding that coattails as well. So Mikey says, do you think, or Mickey, I apologize if I'm saying it incorrectly. So Mickey says, do you think that Thor Ragnarok, riding on the success of its first teaser trailer, can manage to cross the $1 billion line too? Watching the show since 2013 and always look forward to your videos. Keep up the good work." Ah, what a nice comment. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'd be curious. I think that based on the strength of its teaser trailer, it has a very good shot of getting to the $1 billion club. It's certainly very promising out of the gate. But I think the question's going to be, how good is the actual movie? And then also, here's the big thing, because we just talked about this with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, it has to tie into to Infinity War. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 does not. I do think in the long run it will suffer because of that decision to have absolutely no tie-in to the upcoming Infinity War. But I think that because Hela is in Thor Ragnarok, and we all kind of believe at this point that she's taking over the place of Hela, Thanos' girlfriend, and who inspires him to start the Infinity War, basically, I think you're going to probably have very strong momentum coming out of Thor Ragnarok into Infinity War. So I think that will help that movie reach $1 billion, because it's not only going to have people feeling it's a must-see, but I think it's going to inspire a lot of online chatter, a lot of speculation, and it'll be very much, a movie of the moment, where I think that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, because it's so insulated, is going to, not have that factor to help bolster it. So we'll see how Thor Ragnarok shapes up. I'm curious to what you guys think. It was an amazing teaser trailer. And if Taika Waititi can maintain that with the actual film and all the trailers that come next, if there's no letdown, I think it could do really, really well. It could do quite well. And yeah, as you pointed out, that's a pretty nice thing where all the third movies have $1 billion to their name. So no pressure, Thor Ragnarok. No pressure. So what do you guys think? Write your thoughts down below, what you think of today's top 3 stories. Mickey or Mikey's viewer question. I think actually it might be Mickey, so apologies. Anything you'd like to see covered tomorrow, and any questions, of course, that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.